The RCMP has just confirmed 2 new clues found by search teams. Clues that could completely reshape what we thought happened to Lilly and Jack. For months, it seemed like the trail had gone cold. But deep in the thick woods, far beyond the initial search grid, investigators say something was found. And tonight, we break down exactly what those clues are, how they were discovered, and what they could finally mean for this heartbreaking mystery. Because these details, kept under wraps until now, may be the first tangible sign that the children didn't just vanish, they were moved. The first clue confirmed by the RCMP is as strange as it is emotional. A small pink blanket, reportedly belonging to little Lily, discovered near the edge of a dense wooded clearing almost a mile away from the Sullivan family's property. The moment the search team found it, there was a shift in the air. The forest, already tense and eerily quiet, seemed to hold its breath. To an untrained eye, the blanket looked like a random piece of fabric, perhaps something blown away by the wind or dropped during the initial search. But for investigators, it was a deeply personal link to the missing children. It carried emotional weight, something that could anchor the entire investigation if it truly belonged to Lily. However, what came next changed everything. When scent dogs were brought in to analyze the area, handlers immediately noticed something disturbing. The dogs, trained to lock onto human scent and followed across long distances, couldn't pick up Lily's trail from the blanket at all. That was highly irregular. Normally, even after days of exposure to the elements, traces of human scent can cling to fabric fibers. But in this case, it was as though the blanket had never been near the child, as if it had been placed there sterile, disconnected from her entirely. Investigators began piecing together 2 unsettling possibilities. The first, the blanket was deliberately planted, placed there by someone who wanted it to be found. A decoy to mislead searchers, to suggest a false direction and waste precious time. The second, it had indeed been Lily's blanket, but was cleaned, handled, or stored somewhere else before being left in the clearing, meaning someone had possession of it after she vanished. Either possibility points toward interference, a human hand manipulating the evidence. That turns a heartbreaking disappearance into something darker, the likelihood of abduction or deliberate misdirection. And if the blanket was planted, it means whoever took Lily not only wanted searchers to find it, but wanted them to stop looking in the right place. The second clue is far more subtle but no less haunting. A single, small footprint found by ground teams near a narrow ravine, several hundred meters north of the original search perimeter. At first, it seemed insignificant, almost easy to overlook amid the mud and broken leaves scattered across the terrain. But to trained eyes, every indentation in the soil tells a story. When searchers marked and photographed it, they quickly realized the print was approximately the same size as a child's shoe, the right size for Jack, Lily's younger brother. That discovery reignited hope and fear all at once. Hope, because it suggested movement, that perhaps Jack had made it further than anyone thought. Fear, because of what wasn't there. Around that single tiny footprint, the ground was perfectly undisturbed. There were no adult prints beside it, no matching child tracks leading toward or away, no drag marks, no signs of a fall. Just one isolated step pressed into the soft earth, as if the forest itself had swallowed everything else. Investigators studied it carefully. The soil's moisture suggested the print was made not long after rainfall, possibly within the early window of the children's disappearance. It faced northeast, away from the family home, and angled slightly as though whoever stepped there was being held or guided. The absence of a trail told its own chilling story. To search experts, a footprint is like a frozen moment in time. It records not only direction but weight, balance, even panic or hesitation. When there's just one unaccompanied, it hints that the child didn't move freely. The logical explanation? Someone was carrying Jack, maybe to keep him quiet, maybe to move quickly through the rough terrain, and for a brief moment they set him down. One small step, then gone again. If that's true, it paints a grim but clarifying picture. Lily and Jack likely didn't wander off by themselves. They didn't vanish into the wilderness on their own terms. Someone took them, and that single footprint might be the closest trace left behind by whoever carried them through the woods. When reporters first pressed officials about these new discoveries, The RCMP offered only measured silence. For weeks, they refused to comment beyond the standard, ongoing investigation statement. But now, through recently unsealed court documents and internal investigative summaries, confirmation has finally come. Both the pink blanket and the small footprint were officially cataloged, photographed, and forensically analyzed during the height of the search. Behind the scenes, the scale of the investigation has been far larger than the public initially realized. Sources close to the case reveal that over 54 interviews have been conducted, ranging from family members and neighbors to search volunteers and passing motorists. Multiple polygraph tests have been administered to narrow inconsistencies in timelines and witness accounts. Teams of digital analysts have combed through hundreds of hours of surveillance footage, reviewing every vehicle sighting, every timestamp, every camera within a 15-mile radius of the Sullivan property. Despite that, investigators have not yet reclassified the disappearance as a criminal abduction. Officially, it remains a missing persons case. But internally, officers' approach has changed dramatically. According to leaked memos, the RCMP is now treating the two clues, the blanket and the footprint, as potential evidence of relocation. That phrase carries significant weight. It implies that investigators believe the children may have been moved after the initial disappearance, rather than simply lost in the wilderness. This quiet but crucial shift in tone has reignited public hope. Families and online advocates now cling to the idea that the absence of physical remains or signs of distress isn't a dead end. It could be the very proof that Lilly and Jack are still alive somewhere beyond the search zone. Could these small fragments, a child's blanket and a solitary footprint, be more than coincidences? Could they be the beginning of a breadcrumb trail? Faint but real, leading investigators closer to the truth, and possibly to Lilly and Jack themselves? Experts are split down the middle on what these discoveries truly mean. Some analysts lean toward the simplest explanations, that the pink blanket might have been windblown, snagged on branches, or even carried by wildlife away from the original search zone. Forest animals are known to drag soft materials into shelter areas, and the weather in early May was blustery enough to scatter loose belongings far from their origin. But other investigators argue that the blanket's positioning was far too deliberate. It wasn't tangled in underbrush or caught high on limbs. It was neatly spread across a patch of grass at the edge of clearing, as if placed there by human hands. That single detail, they say, changes everything. Then there's the footprint, the solitary, perfectly shaped impression found near the ravine. Experts can't agree on that either. Some claim the soil conditions and distance from the property make it unlikely to belong to Jack at all. Others argue it's too clean, too defined, and too far from the known search area to be random. How could a single child's footprint appear miles from where the children vanished, with no corresponding tracks to or from it? That's not something nature explains easily. But when the two clues are examined together, the blanket and the footprint, a compelling narrative begins to form. Both indicate movement, not stillness. They suggest transition, relocation, and intent. Someone may have taken Lilly and Jack through the forest, deliberately minimizing what they left behind. This wasn't the chaos of two children wandering off. It was controlled, purposeful. The RCMP hasn't connected these clues to any suspect publicly, but multiple reports indicate investigators are now remapping travel routes and pulling old surveillance from a new Glasgow area, where the family was last captured on CCTV the day before the children disappeared. The renewed data analysis focuses on identifying secondary vehicles, anything that might have followed or intersected with the family's path. If investigators can confirm that a second vehicle was involved, even a fleeting glimpse of a plate, a make, or a direction, it could completely reframe the case. One lead light that could transform months of uncertainty into a breakthrough, and finally expose who moved Lilly and Jack and why. Each discovery, no matter how small, keeps this case alive. The blanket, the footprint, two silent witnesses in a story that refuses to fade. The RCMP says the investigation is ongoing, and every new clue gives them reason to keep searching. Because sometimes, closure isn't found in a headline. It's hidden in the smallest, quietest details. And maybe, just maybe, these details will lead us to the truth about Lilly and Jack. Until then, this case isn't over.